Hey, I'm Mechanical Engineer, and these are my reptile hide castle ruins. My leopard gecko Caesar has recently been upgraded from a 10-gallon tank to a 20, and as a result there's a lot of empty space. So today I've decided to build a few new shelters and hides to help fill up the space and give him something to climb on. Now I want these new shelters to look like jungle ruins, so I think I'm going to build an old worn down castle and then an old worn down outer wall to go with it. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute, but for now, let's get started. So to begin, I'm going to start by first constructing the wall itself. We could of course use all sorts of different materials to construct this. We could use rocks or foam or even cardboard, but I think I'm going to use pine wood. Because pine is cheap, lightweight, super easy to work with, and it ends up looking amazing. So I'm going to take our pine board and cut up into a bunch of tiny little blocks that are 1 inch long and a 1/2 inch square. Just like these. I'm now going to give these blocks a quick light sanding to help round off the edges and make it look a little bit more realistic, but this is not entirely necessary, so if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Now comes the fun part. I'm going to begin to place and glue these blocks together in the general shape and design I want my wall to be. Since the tank I'm going to be placing it in is 12 inches deep, that means I'm going to want my wall to be about 9 inches long. I'm also planning to put a slight curve at the end of my wall and placing the blocks in a somewhat drunken and crooked manner to make it look like a more older rundown wall. The cool part about this is you can let your imagination run wild because you really can't go wrong. So let's get started. Oh yeah, and I'll be using Titebond 2 wood glue for this. And here we are. Now just like we talked about, the bricks are not perfectly straight and there's a slight curve at the end of the wall. And then past that I glued down some blocks to the bottom sides of it, which not only aid in the structural integrity, but also make the wall look older, like the blocks fell off the top years ago. So with everything now glued and the glue dry, I'm going to take some gray spray paint with a hammered effect and spray paint the whole wall gray to look like real stone. And now we are going to paint the castle as well, so if you want to hold off and paint them both at the same time, you can. Now while we give that some time to dry, we can begin to construct the castle ruins themselves. We're going to build it very similarly to how we built the wall, with one major difference. Instead of using 1 inch blocks that are 1/2 inch squared, we're instead going to use 1 inch blocks that are 1/2 by 1/4 inch. Well, a little over 1/4 inch. This way we can make the castle larger without needing to take up as much space, if that makes sense. So let's jump back over to the saws and cut out some tiny blocks. And here we are. I'm going to go ahead and lightly round the edges of the blocks again, but just like before, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Perfect. Now we're going to have to do one more thing before we can start gluing everything together, and that is cut out a top or roof, if you will, to the castle. To do this, I'm just going to cut out a 7 by 4 inch rectangle out of this super thin plywood I have. Just like this. And as you can see, I cut out a little peak towards the side of it, and that's because there's going to be a tower going up the front of the castle, so I need a little bit of extra material to cover it. There's actually going to be another tower on the other side of the castle, but I'm going to leave this one as an open hole so the gecko can crawl up through it onto the roof. But it looks like I'm going to have to widen it a little bit. There we go, that should work. Now of course you can do whatever you want, but for me I'm only going to build up the front and side walls and then maybe put a support on the back corner. This way I can put the whole castle in the corner of the tank and kind of see what's going on in the side. But regardless of what you choose to do, it is now finally time to start gluing everything together. Just keep in mind that like the wall, we're going to want to look old and broken down, like real ruins. So let us begin. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. We even have the support we talked about. I'm now going to go ahead and take some of my leftover blocks and build a tower of sorts on the back corner of the castle. I want it to be 2 stories tall, which means I'm going to have to leave holes in the walls so the gecko can actually get inside. I think this will look super cool, but we are going to have to cut out more plywood pieces to serve as floors, but that's more towards the end, so let's get started. And just like that, we now not only have the base of the castle, but also a multi-level tower. So with everything glued and built to my liking, it is now finally time to take some more gray spray paint that we used for the wall and paint it. Now both the castle and the wall are glued, painted, and ready for the next step. Now, if you remember towards the beginning of the video, I said building these things was the fun part.
Now comes the fun part. I'm going to begin to place and glue these blocks together.
Well, now it's time for the ultra fun part. I went down to my local dollar store and picked up some fake greenery and aquarium plants for $1 each. I'm now going to take them and hot glue them onto the castle and the wall to look like trees and vines and really just make it feel like a real jungle. But I want the jungle to feel super dense, so I'm also going to take this scrap block of wood I found and drill in a few trees to place without the tank to make it seem more filled out. So let's do it. And here we are. We have the castle, the wall, and then the scrap block of wood we put the trees in. I think everything looks super cool, but let's see what Caesar thinks. Here you go, Caesar, your new house setup. I think Caesar likes it. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, look at that face. He likes it. But he does love to climb, and there's certainly plenty of opportunity for that now. And there you have it. How to build castle jungle ruins. But hey, thank you so much for you guys watching. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, please feel free to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, and please feel free to subscribe.